What would happen to your business if something happened to you? That's the big question. That's the elephant in the room. That's the thing that most business owners don't even want to think about because they know that the answer is not good. And I've worked with many founders who have told me, my business would virtually crumble overnight if something happened to me. And that is what I'm here for. Many of them have amazing businesses with incredible, tight-knit, very close teams. The thing is, it becomes this big, scary thing that nobody wants to think about, and sometimes they leave it until it's too late. So my goal with working with people is to fix this now before it becomes an issue. So my work is different for every business, but it's also similar for every business. We are starting at the top. We are addressing tough questions and looking at things like what would happen to your team, to your clients? Where would things break down first? Is it payroll and people getting paid? How long would your business last? A day, a week, a month? Where is that breaking point? And then what are the issues that would keep your business from going on without you? Is it that no one can get paid because you have always controlled the finances as the founder? Or is it because no one can go out and quote new jobs because that's how to be able to go out and do that? Is it because you have incredibly close relationships and network? You've built an incredible network, but those people, only trust you, which is a great thing. You have a great reservoir of trust built up with them. But if they only trust you and not your team, if something happens to you, then the business goes out the window, really. And the team can't move it on because they don't have any real connection to those contacts that you've built up. So those are the things that we are going to take apart so that we can put them back together. Right. What does it actually look like? So it's broken down into interviews, walkthroughs, and then a final massive report going over everything that I have gathered in the interviews and the walkthroughs. So interviews are with the founder and with key team members. So in these, I am looking to really dig into the business and find out where things are now and where we would like them to be. So what the strengths are, what the challenges are, it's a lot of questions, a lot of digging, a lot of probing to gain an understanding. And the nice thing is I get to go in and talk to people from all across the organization. So this gives me a lot of perspective as to not only what the challenges are, but different ideas that people have for solving them. Interviews are mainly, we're dealing with what's up here. We're just talking to people and talking through the problems at a higher level. But the walkthroughs are when I get to actually dig into the business and see what's going on. So I have people take me through their processes. How do you do X? And then we look at it. And sometimes multiple people are doing X and they're doing it three different ways. And we figure out, oh, wow, that's really not efficient and it's causing a lot of problems. Let's say you have three different people doing the same job three different ways and with three different outcomes. Like that's something that needs to be examined and tightened up because let's say that is quoting, for example, on a job, and you're coming out with three wildly different quotes because you don't have things shored up and tightened up. So that's things that we work on fixing. And much of this just comes from having people walk me through their day to day and how they do things. With some clients, they are more like, hey, you know what? Just I need this solved and I need it solved now. Here's access, here's, passwords, here's whatever, like go in and look at stuff and figure things out. And then with other people, they're very much, like, I'll have my team walk you through it. So I can do it in either way. It's just a matter of people being honest and showing how they go through and do different things throughout their day. And I get to observe and listen to where things break down. Something with a founder, for example, usually is typically around like payroll. This is a thing that would immediately break for most of the founders that I have worked with because they have always controlled the purse strings. And now it's not that that's a bad thing, but if something would happen to them, even if they have an operations manager who can run the business in their absence, who can keep things going, that may be only for 2 weeks or a month until the next pay period. And then when people can't get paid, no matter how loyal they are to the organization, no matter how much they may want to stick it out and help, while things are in turmoil, people have to be able to put food on the table for their families. They have to be able to pay their mortgage. They have to be able to take care of themselves. And pay is a huge part of that. So if a company can't pay its employees, can't pay its team members, it's immediately, just going to come crashing down. And I've seen this happen before, unfortunately. And it's really sad because you have these tight-knit teams that are really close and love working together, love, being a part of this little unit that they've all created together, but it all gets, just wiped out overnight in some instances. And that's what we really, really are trying to do to work against that, to put plans in place before that happens. So we walk through the entire existing process of payroll in that example or any of the processes across the company. And I get to understand how they work and how they can be improved and how the work for a process can get decentralized. At the lower levels, it's very common for multiple people to know how to do a thing in a company. But at the higher levels, it gets riskier because it's only one or two people that know how to do those things. And I have worked with a lot of founders who have family businesses. So typically the people at the top are family members. You may have a founder and, it'd be a parent and a child's business, or it may be a husband and wife team. And that can be very dangerous because typically when something happens, it happens to both, or it can, even if both were not involved in, say, a car accident, there's the immediate need of the one is to be there for the other. And that means that one to two to possibly even threes, if it's a, really family business and you've got more people involved from the family, a lot of those people, the time and energy is immediately diverted where it should be with the family and the health issue going on, but it causes the business immediately to come to a halt. So the part of my work that I really enjoy is being able to help people put plans in place for before something happens and to show founders how even a system where you think it may only be you, because again, I'm a founder as well. I'm very guilty of this as well. We tend to think that this thing can only be done by me. Well, in reality, we can take a lot of those things and we can put them together into an organized system where still only the founder has access during the day to day, but we're also creating a, kind of smash the box, smash the glass in case of emergency system so that this system is protected and it's set off here over to the side, but we have steps in place for if something happens, here is what should be done, and here's the person that I trust to do that in my absence. Because when something happens, when an emergency happens, that is not the time, nor do people really have the energy to be figuring it out at that time. Most of the companies I work with are very small knit teams, anywhere from 5 to 15 employees, team members. And there's a lot of closeness in businesses that size. So when something happens, when an emergency happens to somebody, it happens to everybody on the team. Everyone knows everyone. There's a lot of grief, there's loss, there's processing going on. And that is not a time for the brain to be creative and innovative and jump into figuring things out for the most part. The brain is in a very different state of just going through the motions and just holding things all together. There's a numbness that exists. There's a survival mode that people have to go into, and that's not the time to be figuring things out. So what we do is we work on processes, on checklists, so that in the event that something happens, there's a set of things to do that people can follow. And that makes it, that it's never easy, but that makes it doable. And that makes things continue to tick over, even if at a slower pace or even with change. Yes, that will be the case, but things keep moving because there's no, oh my goodness, what do we do? So much as, okay, we know that this isn't the ideal situation, but we have a plan. So we go to the plan, we open the plan, we start with step one, we start with step two, we start with step three, and things can continue moving forward because we've set up systems that can be followed even in times of very high stress. Now, the good thing is that this is not all doom and gloom. The best part of these plans is putting them into place and then not having an emergency happen. The beauty of that is that we have created more freedom throughout the organization. So one of the most common side effects that I actually see from putting succession plans in place and getting a systems audit done is that I see my founders go on vacation more and actual proper vacations, unplugged, without their cell phones. I see them start to take weekends off and actually be able to disconnect and spend time with family. And instead of that feeling of, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on in the business, there's more transparency now and there's more ability for them to check in and make sure that things are still going well in their absence. So the idea really is to just, have this in place because it creates so much peace of mind and also creates more freedom because with these systems where other people can take on some of the difficult founder only work before, now the founder has that freedom to relax, to let their hair down a little bit. And they have freedom of choice now. They can opt to back out of their business a little bit. They can opt to get more involved in their business, but in different ways, more focusing on growth and strategy for the future instead of so much hassle and being stuck in repetitive day-to-day things that they were doing before. They have the option to sell the business if that is something they were considering doing, but just thought, oh my gosh, it's too much trouble, it's too much work. I'm never going to be able to get to that point because things are now organized. Things are now set up to where even if it's not perfect yet, they're focusing on it. They're working toward it. They have a roadmap for the things that need to be done. They're getting their ducks in a row. Everything was chaos before, it was scattered, and things are slowly being brought into alignment. So my core offering for small businesses is an 8-week timeline. In that, I am interviewing and doing the walkthroughs at the beginning half of that time. And then at the end, I am just amassing all the information that I've gathered and putting it together into a final report for the founder, which outlines what they need to tackle and in what order. Now, that timeline can vary. It depends very heavily on the amount of employees in the company and the complexity of their business and what they do. But 8 weeks is typically a good starting point. And in the early stages of the kickoff call, getting information, we can modify that if needed, but typically that is a really good place to start. And at the end, I deliver a report with all of the information that I have gathered from all of the interviews, all the walkthroughs that I've done, plus my years of experience doing this with other business owners. So basically, I can bring all of that together into a recommendation package of where the company is now, where it needs to go, and what the steps are to get there. There's always, always, always a lot of bottlenecks that we identify. And sometimes companies are able to even double, triple, 4 or 5x their growth based on tackling those bottlenecks. Because, especially in the smaller companies, if you have a key bottleneck like the founder limiting some things, that is a limit to how large the company can grow because one person can only do so much. So once we identify the key areas that they're blocking, we're able to document those, systematize those, hand bits and pieces off to trusted other team members. And then all of a sudden you have, if 2 people can do what the founder was doing, well, then we're really rolling. And then if 3 people could do it, and then it just grows from there. So we really do have a lot of positives that come out of this, aside from just getting things in place in case of an emergency. Now, a lot of people ask me, what if we just did this ourselves? And my answer would be one way or another, get it done. Every business needs a succession plan, in my opinion. And unfortunately, the smaller the business is, I think the more at risk they are at times because again, just if something happens to the founder, things crumble overnight and it just affects that group of people around them very heavily. Now, businesses can do this themselves. They do need to get an emergency plan into place. However, in my experience, it is often faster and easier to have someone else like me come in from the outside for a number of reasons. Number one, it is almost always something that gets pushed off to someday because as you're going through your day to day and as your team is going through their day to day, it's not like any of you have extra time on your hands. So usually it's one day we'll get to that, one day we'll get to that, one day we'll get to that. And then unfortunately for some people, they don't ever get into it and an emergency happens. So it's easier when someone else is coming in from the outside because it's their job. It's my role to work alongside you and your team to take up as little time as I can from you and your team so that you can go about your day-to-day business and that I can do what I'm good at, which is extracting this information and then putting it all into a plan for you and your team. The other thing that's really good with someone coming from the outside is that people tend to be more honest because I am a stranger, basically. So they will tell me things that they would not necessarily tell the founder. So, you're not going to really complain as much about a coworker to their face or about your boss to their face or to about a system that's broken, to someone else in the company without that as you are with someone like me. So I'm from the outside. I'm impartial. I'm just here to listen. I'm not here to name names. I'm just here to document what is working, what is not working, and then to provide my expertise as to how we go about fixing that. So people open up with a genuine honesty. And the nice thing is, I'm not offended when they tell me about things that are broken in the company because it's not my company and I'm not taking offense to it. I can actually see that they're doing it from a place of love. They like their company, they enjoy working there, they want it to keep going. And so they're offering this information to help fix the place where they work. And I'm able to just take that information and turn it into recommendations for what should be done without there having to be, this kind of friction between who's saying what. So it works really well having an outside consultant come in. And then at the end, I turn over the plan to you and you have the option of continuing to work with me on the implementation part of it. Or if you decide to in-house it and have someone in your team do it, you have a very clear roadmap. So it's really a win-win all around. You really can't go wrong. If you have any more questions at all, I would love for you to reach out at Michonne@kitchentablefounders.com. And you can also go to my website, kitchentablefounders.com, and go ahead and book a free 30-minute call with me to find out if we might be a good fit for working together.